Good morning and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. We're also on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, also on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. Our show online in HD on civiccentertv.com. We're also on the Facebook page today of Premier Pet Supply. We'll be talking with their owner, Mike Palmer, later on in the show in the 11 o'clock hour to cap off today's program. You can also listen to us on 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, and on WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, all across the Oakland County area with all your top coronavirus stories and more from around the state of Michigan and Oakland County and local municipalities as well. Making news today on civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, your local home for all of your local coronavirus news and other big stories in the Oakland County area. Last night, there was a drive-in Black Lives Matter protest event held in West Bloomfield. The Drive-In for Justice event was held yesterday at West Bloomfield High School in their parking lot, where attendees were able to hear speeches and be part of a demonstration via their car horns. They're actually able to call in response using their car horns. They all maintain their social distance. They were inside their cars. We had that live for you right here on Lakes FM and on Civic Center TV after talking with Brooke Taylor, one of the organizers of the event, earlier on in the week. It was a really nice event over at West Bloomfield High School. They had speakers, they had musicians, they had call-in response, and they heard from current students of the high school, former students of the high school who have now since graduated, as well as high school officials, including both their new principal, Eric Pace, their assistant principal, Dr. Stephanie Griffin, and their head football coach, Ron Bellamy. It was a really nice event that I think was unique to this community and was unique just in terms of all these other events that have been popping up throughout the country. And I think that it was really well received as well in West Bloomfield and from people that were visiting from surrounding areas.
I wouldn't be surprised if more and more people kind of piggyback on this, because this was a great way to get people who are still afraid to be in large groups to take part in some of these protests and to have their voices heard and to be a part of something as well. So I would anticipate this was incredible that Brooke came up with this and then they were actually able to pull it off. It was a success. More and more people, I would imagine, are going to start adopting this platform.
I think so as well, and it worked really well. It was a creative idea, and I think that the first time you do something, it's always a little bit of a test, but if it goes well and everything works out and the event is taken well and the messages are received well, I think that makes something like that even more viable than it was even before, and I think we will see, as you said, more of those events popping up very soon. Governor Whitmer yesterday at her press conference introduced the My Safe Schools Return to School Roadmap. Her Return to Learn Council provided potential for plans to the governor's office, and then she created this plan based off of that information and created a roadmap for schools. During her live press conference, it was announced the plan is a 63-page document that outlines COVID-19 safety protocols for each phase of Governor Whitmer's reopening plan, the My Safe Start Plan. Whitmer said, quote, "Our students, parents, and educators have made incredible sacrifices during our battle with COVID-19. Thanks to our aggressive action against this virus, the teachers who have found creative ways to reach their students, and the heroes on the front lines, I'm optimistic that we will return to in-person learning during the fall." So good news there, Ronnie, that we are going to have our students back in schools in the fall. It is going to be based on multiple phases. If we have to take a step back and go back into phase 3, if we stay where we're at right now in phase 4, or if things get better going forward and we're able to move into phase 5 and have more in-person learning. This provides, as they said, a roadmap for these individual school districts to create their own plans around and be prepared for whatever the situation might be.
No big surprises coming out of the press conference. We were lucky enough to have Tanya Allen on the show earlier to give us a sneak peek of what could be a part of this press conference and a part of this roadmap. So no big surprises, but what's really going to be interesting is it's one thing to put something on paper and have recommendations, but then to implement it, because at the end of the day, we're talking about kids. And how hard is that going to be to get them to follow through? And I will say, as a teacher, I would be exhausted at the thought of this.
So would I. And we talked previously with Dr. James Schwartz from Avondale Schools, their superintendent, who had said that we're going to have lessons and we're going to be teaching these kids how to maintain social distance and how to wear a mask properly, and on top of enforcing that, because we can't assume that they are learning this at home and that they are following these guidelines at home, but we have to make sure that they follow these guidelines in schools so that we don't have an uptick of cases in the school environment that forces us to shut down or modify our plans, or potentially could cause a spread that shuts everybody down in a localized area. So that also making news at civiccentertv.com. Health officials say potentially hundreds may have been exposed to COVID-19 at 5th Avenue in Royal Oak. Oakland County health officials are urging anyone with COVID-19 symptoms to get tested. Ingham County Health Officer Linda Vale, who is dealing with the Harper's Brew Pub outbreak, has some advice for 5th Avenue. Quote, the restaurant itself, close, deep clean, re-educate your staff, enforce mask wearing of staff. I see a lot of very lax enforcement of mask wearing, and closed quote. Oakland County Medical Director Dr. Russell Faust, who we had on the show with us yesterday, says the health department is, quote, pretty comfortable, and close quote, that 5th Avenue is the site of the exposure. The co-owner of 5th Avenue says his establishment will remain open and doesn't believe that the confidence level is really high for the Oakland County Health Department naming 5th Avenue as the site of the exposure. So that's going to continue to be a story in the local area with this outbreak, with the outbreak at Harper's in East Lansing, and it's definitely having an impact, as we saw yesterday at Governor Gretchen Whitmer's press conference, where she had some choice words when asked if Michigan was going to, as she had previously planned to do so, move into Phase 5 by the 4th of July. Here's Governor Whitmer from yesterday at her press conference.
I had said, when Michigan was that green beacon and a sea of red across the country, that my hope was that we would be into Phase 5 by the 4th of July. That's not going to happen. So I just think we need to take that off the table right now. The numbers that we're seeing are increasing across the state. Does it mean that we have to rethink and reanalyze and perhaps take a more conservative approach? Maybe, but I'm not announcing that today. We are conferring with our, obviously with Dr. Caldoun, DHHS, the University of Michigan School of Public Health, and I would anticipate being able to give you more clarity on what our next steps are in the next 24 to 48 hours.
Well, possibly we may hear from the governor again this week regarding Phase 5 if things do get better. I would imagine we don't hear on Phase 5 this week. I think it's going to take a couple weeks after these outbreaks have passed to see what the numbers continue to do, if we continue to have more spikes and more isolated incidents pop up before anything official comes from the governor regarding this.
You listen to that clip right there. Read between the lines. That was a warning saying, look, if we don't continue to wear a mask and socially distance and these numbers spike, we're not moving forward. I think what she's going to do is wait and see if we get some of these spikes coming out of the 4th of July weekend. A lot of people are off. They're going to be going to the restaurants. They're going to be going to the bars. So if we see some of these big spikes, I think we're going to go roll back, which is then going to be interesting to see if restaurants, bars, and some of these other establishments close so willingly the second time around.
We have Erica Jones with us today as well out in the field. We're going to try to get her to a locally owned restaurant to talk with them about how that would impact their business. Could that be create a situation where a lot of these restaurants that are locally owned that were struggling before reopening due to being closed down for the pandemic, if this could be a final blow to them, and what impact that could have on our local economy, on these individuals more importantly, and definitely on our society, as we've already seen the impact of one shutdown. A second shutdown could be potentially fatal for a lot of businesses.
Yeah, it's I don't see a lot of them surviving a second time around. Not at all. Especially the smaller and the locally owned businesses and restaurants, some of them still haven't reopened. While they are able to reopen, a lot of them still haven't because of supply issues or even personnel issues. So can they survive a second one? I don't think so.
More news at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Michigan eases visitor restrictions on nursing homes and long-term care and juvenile facilities. Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Director Robert Gordon signed 2 epidemic orders that provide for expanded visitations at group facilities while also requiring precautions to protect public health. You will have to be assessed for COVID-19 symptoms, wear facial coverings, and maintain social distancing. The Department of Health and Human Services is recommending outdoor visitation wherever it is possible. More on that and other stories on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. If you're on our homepage, you can just click on coronavirus for all of your top stories of the day, as well as access to reputable resources from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the State of Michigan, Oakland County, and various municipalities in our local area. And all that information, we talk about this often on our show with guests in extensive fashion. And to hear everything they have to say or their most important information, civiccentertv.com/megacast. You can watch full episodes, short clips, and entire interviews on our website 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on demand. So if you're not able to tune in from 10 a.m. to 12 noon or you miss an interview that you wanted to see, it's all right there on our website, including the governor's full press conference from yesterday. We also have some short clips from the governor's press conference too. So if you missed that and you want the most important 5 to 10 bits of information that she provided and that her team provided, that is on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Well, we talk about protests in the local area. We talk about what went on at Governor Whitmer's press conference yesterday. She also introduced a proposal for potential police reforms. And to talk about that and other issues in the local area from a law enforcement perspective, we are joined now by the Chief of Police from the city of Rochester, Steve Schettenhelm. Steve, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning. Thank you.
How are you? How are your officers doing?
Everybody's doing good here. We're always mindful of everything that's going on with the virus and that, and taking our precautions, and certainly hoping that all our residents are doing that as well.
At Governor Whitmer's press conference yesterday, she revealed some points of her proposed police reforms. These include, but are not limited to, banning chokeholds and the blockages of anybody's windpipe, furthering limits on no-knock warrants, instilling duty to intervene policies, and making false racially motivated 911 calls a hate crime, and then also requiring further on-the-job training for law enforcement officers in order to maintain their license. Your thoughts on some of these potential reforms? Are they feasible? Are some of them already in action in departments like we see at the city of Rochester?
Sure. I think most of the things that we're talking about in progressive departments like we have here in Oakland County are already in place. We don't allow or teach or instruct our officers on the use of a chokehold as a restraint. We encourage and demand that our officers intervene, and frankly, they have intervened. We've had officers say, hey, step back, let me take care of this, and have reported on each other, which, is something that I think people think that doesn't happen, but it does happen, where they may have a concern over a way an item was handled or a situation, and refer that to their supervisor. And I think we're always open to more training and more exposure on a variety of different topics. So, I think we are already moving and have moved in that direction, and so I don't think there's anything there that has been so far proposed as problematic for any police department.
Chief, can you talk a little bit about, do you think all of this is going to have an impact on your ability to recruit high quality, diverse candidates?
Well, I think there's some concern. I think because this is not the most attractive job. I mean, we work holidays, we work outside in extreme weather, we spend a lot of time away from our families. So we work while everyone else is sleeping, we're working. So, there's just a lot of things in general that, we're looking for very specific people that appreciate doing a good job and serving the public. And, some of that other stuff comes along with it. Now you add on a perception that maybe the public is not supportive of their police. You talk about defunding the police. And so, those concerns can be problematic for people that are trying to get into this profession. One of the things that we've done with our people and, through the use of our Facebook and other social media is really to make sure that people know that the vast majority of people do appreciate the police department, that they stand behind their officers, support them, understand the challenges of this profession, and that the vast majority of officers all over the country are accepting that challenge and performing their job at a very high professional level.
We're being joined right now by Stephen Schettenhelm, the Chief of Police in the city of Rochester, on the Oakland County Megacast. So you mentioned, Chief, that many of these policies that the governor proposed in her police reforms yesterday at her press conference are already things that are, in some sense, in place in the Rochester Police Department. From what I've heard from other police departments locally that have some similar policies to what the governor proposed, duty to intervene policies, limits on excessive force or on a physical force. What are some of those policies maybe that are in place already that the governor has spoken on, that are in place in the city of Rochester? Are they effective policies, and how does your department check in on them to make sure that they're being followed?
Well, I think, and we've chatted about this before, one of the things that is reflective of that is that we don't have use of force situations that lend themselves to serious or any injuries for that matter. Our citizens' complaints are very, very rare. When we do get a complaint, it's more of association of, well, I wish the officer was nicer. I wish he had explained this better. If I understood what he was trying to do, things would have gone smoother. But we don't get complaints of when they regards to use of force. So, when you try to preach to the officers about having de-escalation and, making sure that you take the time to properly explain why you're doing and what you want to have happen. We try to hire good communicators. And the reason for that is because that's the best weapon that an officer has, is his mouth. If he can talk himself or herself in or out of a situation and control the situation by the use of their words, it's much better than it is to have to use their hands. That when you look at policies and we review a lot of things, we look at situations, we talk about them. We're our best Monday morning quarterbacks. We look at police reports from supervision standpoint and look at things and say, could this have done better? What did you think about this situation? How did this happen this way? And those are all results of internal situations, not because someone came to us and said, hey, we had a bad experience with the Rochester police officer.
We're talking with the Rochester Police Department Chief Stephen Schettenhelm on the Oakland County Megacast. So we've had a lot of these protests lately, and some of them had quite a lot of police involvement on a positive end. They're having conversations with the organizers of the protests, with the protesters themselves. They're helping these protesters organize these various events, especially in the suburban areas of late. So any updates from your department regarding regarding addressing social justice issues with these protesters? Has the conversation continued, and have any changes been considered or made, or progress is being discussed between you and other leaders in the community to try to make these positive changes?
Well, I think, as you point out, we are in a way part of those protests or marches because, frankly, we don't like what has occurred in some locations around the country. That's not something that we stand for. It's not the way that we do business here in the city of Rochester. Frankly, any of the departments in our area. We hold our officers to a higher standard. We want people to have confidence in their police department and in their city. And so, we are in a way protesting too, because of the injustices that we've seen in other locations. And these marches work much better when we work in partnership with those organizers and take the steps that we can to make them peaceful and effective for those that participate.
Chief Schuttenhelm, we're coming into a holiday weekend. 4th of July is a big weekend for celebrations. People are taking days off of work, and so they're out on the town more often. There are people coming into the city of Rochester that are visiting family, visiting friends, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of potential hazards that come with these celebratory weekends. What are some of those common hazards that law enforcement in your city tends to have to address on these holiday weekends? And what are some ways that residents and visitors of the city of Rochester can help your department and other public safety departments locally prevent those hazards from becoming a problem?
Sure. I mean, we do encourage people to have a safe and fun 4th. And, the number of things that come to mind, obviously the virus is a new thing for the 4th this year, that we want to make sure that people are continuing to wear their masks, to be aware of social distance, and to be smart. I mean, we don't want the virus to continue, and the best preventions that we have are to keep up with our masks, hand washing, and social distance. You think of those 3 things, and you're doing a lot to prevent the spread of the virus. Drinking and driving, is certainly an issue over any holiday weekend, and we certainly know that the officers will be out there and will be monitoring traffic for those type of infractions. We also worry about fireworks this time of year. We have the fireworks tents that are sprouted up all over, and we just encourage people to use good judgment if they choose to use fireworks, but to keep in mind that what goes up comes down, and it must come down on your own property. Also to be aware of the hours from 11 till 11:45 p.m. And also be very cognizant of the fact that not everyone is a lover of fireworks. If you have our pets, young children, and our veterans can all certainly be adversely affected by the use of fireworks. And so, it's a great opportunity to check in with your neighbors, let them know that if you plan to use them, and just to be aware of that, that they could really be traumatized or affected by using fireworks, and especially if they don't know that it's happening. So sometimes that notice, hey, we're going to shoot some off, we're going to do it, during these times, that can certainly be a nice, courteous thing to do in your neighborhood. So, it's just safety first when it comes to the use of fireworks.
I will say, Chief, I think if we had an award for the best backdrop, Zoom backdrop, you would win. It's a great shot of your community, showing off some of the businesses and the restaurants that you have, and for people to enjoy. Have you had a lot of complaints from the public about some of the restaurants and the establishments not following the rules, people not wearing masks or social distancing? Have you had complaints of that nature?
There's some, not many. We actually, this week is probably the first week that we've had any consequence. We've gone out and spoke to those establishments. I mean, most of the concerns have been with table placement, and then perhaps with staff that maybe not always wearing a mask. So we're going out and having those discussions, looking for some voluntary compliance, and just reminding them of the importance of wearing a mask, setting a good example, and making sure that when a patron comes to the establishment, that they can appreciate that steps have been taken for their safety as well as the staff's safety to keep the proper social distance. And I think the highlight of this is we have to all do our part so that we don't take steps backwards. We're trying to look forward. We're trying to, as we said, stop the curve and to prevent the spread of the virus. And any steps that we don't take to do that can have a detrimental effect not only on the health and welfare of our citizens, but certainly our business bottom line if we have to cut back on capacity or close.
So let's say you do have an establishment, you have a conversation, if they continue not to comply, what do they face fines, or could they possibly be closed down? What are the repercussions?
Well, we would have to, so far we've been very lucky and we have not had to cross that bridge yet. And our businesses have been very receptive and open. We've talked to them all along, and certainly I think, most of the cases have been just forgetfulness or rather than, deliberate indifference to the executive orders. So that's something that we would have to work with, our prosecutor's office, attorney general's office, health department, and if that got to that point. But as I said, I think our businesses certainly understand the gravity of the situation, and I don't see that to be a problem.
Steve, any last comments before we let you go today?
Well, I hope everybody enjoys the 4th. It's, the weather looks like it's going to be nice and hot. The sun's going to be out. It's going to be, just all the recipe for a great weekend. And we just hope that everybody does it and has fun and does it in a safe manner and is courteous to your neighbors. So certainly enjoy the 4th.
Well, Chief, we thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Chief Steve Settenhelm from the Rochester Police Department with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back and speak with Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast, coming up on our family of TV and radio stations.
Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan. So people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonay Caldoun. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Municipal Access, also on 89.3 WBLD. It's Lakes FM, 88.1 WBFH, the BIF, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, and WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, that a service of Avondale Schools with operations out of Avondale High School under the leadership of station manager Marty Schaefer and station engineer Keith Fraley, keeping us on the air with them each and every day in Auburn Hills, Pontiac, Rochester, and the surrounding areas. And we thank our family of stations for joining us each and every day on the Oakland County Megacast. We're not going to have live shows on Thursday or Friday this week, but we will have a best of edition of the Megacast that will span the entire 2 hours of our regular program, and we invite you to join us for that show on both of those days with some of our best guests from recent episodes and our most interesting interviews with people from the last couple of weeks of our shows, including our next guest, the Oakland County Executive David Coulter, now joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Executive Coulter, thank you for being with us today.
Well, good morning. I'm curious, am I going to make the greatest hits replay or?
We'll see about that. I think there's a very high chance that you do, David Coulter. So how are you? How's your team at the county office doing?
Always great to be with you. Things are well here. I'm in the office. We're getting back to our new normal. I'm in the office more than I used to be, and it's feeling good.
Well, as always, good news, good to hear. So yesterday in West Bloomfield, there was an event at West Bloomfield High School, Drive-In for Justice. It was an event in support of Black Lives Matter and some of the social justice movements we've seen pop up in the month of June. It was a great way to cap off the month of June. And at the event, we had Lisa Brown from Oakland County alongside West Bloomfield Township Clerk Debbie Binder on site to help people register to vote for the upcoming elections. For Oakland County residents who maybe have fallen, but for Oakland County residents who maybe haven't registered yet, how critical on a local level is voting to making change?
Boy, I think if there's one thing that we've all learned over the past few years, it's that, elections matter. They have consequences. And I think you're seeing that. And especially among our young people, I don't hear nearly as many young people say, it doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count. But we have to still drive that message to folks. We still have to make sure that they understand how to get registered and where to vote. But I'm encouraged by the increased sort of political activity, voting activity that I'm seeing around the county. I think it's a good thing.
What would you say to the younger generation about the ones that have been participating in the protest, how to take that voice and take it a step further to turn it into policy? How can they get from step A to step B, in your opinion?
That's a great question. And it goes back to what we first started talking about, voting, because the demonstrations have highlighted and given voice to some very important issues that we need to make sure change into actual policy solutions and reforms. Well, the way that happens is collectively, all of us together agreeing to do that through our local governments, whether it be your local city government, county government, state, or federal. That's how policies change. And so making sure that you're an active part of that government, and you have the greatest responsibility of all. You get to decide who sits in these chairs. And it's a huge power and responsibility, but it's how we turn anger into action. And so I would say, if you're upset, or if you feel strong and passionate about your positions, make sure that you hold your elected officials accountable at the ballot box. That's the most effective way. That's how our system was designed, frankly.
We're joined by David Coulter, the Oakland County Executive on the Oakland County Megacast, all throughout the local area on a family of community television and radio stations. We're also today on the Facebook page of Premier Pet Supply, and thank them and their tens of thousands of followers and likes for joining us today on the program. So Executive Coulter, there's a new rent, mortgage, and utility relief program that's been started in Oakland County. From the Oakland County website, quote, Oakland County residents who have fallen behind on their rent, mortgage, or utility payments because of a lost job or other income reduction due to the COVID-19 pandemic may be eligible for a one-time grant of up to $15,000 per household. So Executive Coulter, tell us a bit about this program, who qualifies, and how do people apply?
Yeah, so, it has been evident through this pandemic that a lot of people are getting laid off or unemployed. Unemployment has shot through the roof in Michigan and throughout the country. And we know that has a direct impact on people being able to stay in their housing. And that is just critically important. We were fortunate in Oakland County to get federal funds to help with our relief efforts in COVID. And our staff decided that among many groups, we've been working with our small businesses and our nonprofits and our faith-based communities, but our residents who need housing assistance is a critical component of what we're looking at. And so there's a whole bunch of regulations and rules that you gotta read through. So I would invite people, the simplest thing to do is to go to oakgov.com. And if you hit on the COVID-19 button, you'll find the information around whether you qualify. But the simple answer is we're trying to get you mortgage and rent assistance. And these are grants, not loans. So you wouldn't have to pay these back. This can get you through if your situation is COVID related. So if you've been laid off or you've lost income because of COVID, you will qualify. So So to see all the requirements, go on our website. It's really simple. We've made the application really simple. And if you have questions about it, there's a number on there for one of our housing counselors who can help you determine whether you qualify and how to apply.
It's an interesting program. And I think this is definitely going to be a big help for a lot of people in our local area who are struggling with keeping their rent payments and their mortgage payments and their utility payments going due to lost wages and so on due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But there is a sense of urgency with this also. Some of these people are not going to be able to wait very long to have those funds come in and be able to still maintain their rent and their utility and their mortgage payments potentially. So, and with that in mind, I ask, how long should people be expecting to wait after they've applied for a grant to hear back and maybe even receive those funds?
Well, you're absolutely right. There is a sense of urgency, and part of the urgency for us is that the governor has a eviction moratorium that originally went till the end of this month. I believe it's been extended another 2 weeks, but people are in this situation now. They need to respond to their landlord or their mortgage company now. And so our goal is to get this money out the door as quick as possible. Our Board of Commissioners turned this around really quickly because we have to have approval on how we spend all this money from our board. So they've already met, they've approved the fund. The application is meant to be as simple as possible. And, I can't give you a specific, you apply this day and it'll be this many days, but I do want to assure your listeners, we know the urgency. We know that your landlord or mortgage company is looking for that payment, and we don't want you to be late and get penalized. So we're going to turn these funds around just as quickly as we can and get this money in your hands or the hands of your landlord or mortgage company just as quickly as we can, because we know that the need is now.
Oakland County Executive David Coulter with us on the Oakland County Megacast throughout the local area. Executive Coulter, you had mentioned that these funds are coming from federal monies to the Oakland County. Some may be concerned that those are potentially loans and the county's going to have to pay that back and it's going to come out of the taxes. So where exactly is this money coming from? How is it applied to Oakland County? And is that going to affect the taxpayer down the line in order for this relief that's necessary to be enacted right now?
Yeah, so the good news for us as a county is it doesn't come out of our county taxes at all or our county budget. So earlier this year, I guess it would have been late March, the federal government passed the CARES Act. And that was their first stimulus package to help us navigate COVID. They're debating another one now that you may have heard of called the HEROES Act, because here's what happened. So the CARES Act was money available for local units of government that have 500,000 people or more. So Oakland County qualified. We have 1.25 million people in Oakland County. So we got over $200 million from the federal government to support COVID efforts in the county. When you hear about the HEROES Act that people are talking about passing in Washington now, those are for counties and local governments, cities, villages, townships, the smaller ones. So we have this money. It came from the federal government through the CARES Act. We have to spend it by the end of this year. So we've gotten very aggressive about making sure that everybody in our county that needs assistance, like I said, whether it's our businesses, our nonprofits, our churches, our veterans, and now our homeowners and renters have the support that they need, and it's not coming out of county dollars. I don't want to say it's not tax dollars because, of course, it comes out of the federal treasury, but this is money that was given to Oakland County specifically for this purpose. So it's very appropriate that we do this, and this is a critical group of people that need a short-term support. And as you said, it's a grant, not a loan. So don't be afraid that you're adding to your debt by applying for this. This will be money that will be granted directly to you.
Talking about money and the budget, everyone's budget has taken a hit during COVID-19. How is Oakland County doing, and are you concerned if some of the businesses have to shut back down because people are not wearing the mask and the virus continues to spread?
Yeah. So I'm always concerned about everything. I think I get paid to just worry about stuff, but both of those things are a concern of mine. We look at our budget very closely. The good news is we don't have the same budget pressures as the state or even like the city of Detroit, because our budget is primarily financed through property tax revenue. And property values in Oakland County so far, knock on wood, have remained pretty stable. So this isn't like the Great Recession where you saw a bottoming out of the property values. We haven't seen that yet. And so for now, we're tightening our belt. We have a hiring freeze on in the county. We're eliminating positions, and we're doing those sort of things. But we haven't had to lay anybody off, and we haven't had to have, mass slashing of the budget. But I am very concerned about our businesses and them following the health protocols. We saw an example of this last week where a nightclub in Royal Oak, it was too crowded and there weren't enough face masks. And now we know of at least 3 people who have contracted coronavirus from being there. I can't emphasize enough that even though we brought our numbers down in Oakland County and we're doing really well and everybody's efforts have helped, the virus is still very real. We haven't defeated it. We don't have a cure for it. We don't have a treatment for it. So right now, the best thing that we can still do is social distance, wear our masks in public. And that is critical, because if we don't do that, we will get a second spike. I think there's almost no doubt about that anymore. So we have to take this very deadly virus very seriously still until we have a treatment or a vaccine.
Oakland County Executive David Coulter with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Executive Coulter, yesterday at her press conference, Governor Whitmer revealed some points of her proposed police reforms that may be coming up very soon at the state level. Includes, but is not limited to, banning chokeholds and windpipe blockage, further limits on no-knock warrants, installing duty to intervene policies in departments, making false racially motivated 911 calls a hate crime, and requiring further training on the job for officers in order to maintain their license. Your thoughts on these police reforms being proposed by the governor, and are any of these reforms that are being proposed already in the works or in conversations at the county level?
Right. So I love the reforms. I think they're appropriate. I think the governor's leadership on this has been solid. So a couple of things, in Oakland County, every city, village, or township either has their own local police department or they've contracted with the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. So if you're a local police, if your community has a local police department, they're the ones that need to adopt these reforms. And so you should be asking your police chief and your mayor or township supervisor if they plan to implement these reforms, because I think they're logical and smart things to do. But I also know that here in Oakland County, our sheriff's department is overseen by our Oakland County Sheriff, Mike Bouchard. So his boss is actually you, the voters, not me. But I've had conversations with Mike, and he's very open to these. A number of these reforms he's already adopted, and so it's a good question for the sheriff. But I know that he is looking at these reforms. He's been publicly supportive of many of them. But those would be instituted in the communities that we, as a sheriff's department, operate. But if you're in a local city like Birmingham, for instance, you have your own police department, and it really is incumbent upon you to ask your police chief and your city commissioners whether they agree with adopting these reforms, which I, as I said, I think are very common sense and helpful reforms.
Oakland County Executive David Coulter with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Executive Coulter, we talked yesterday to Dr. Russell Faust, the medical director for the Oakland County Health Department.
He's the best. He's our Dr. Fauci. He's amazing. Yeah.
He really is. No, he's fantastic every time we have him on, and he gives us the honest answers every single time. He does not mince his words at all. We asked him yesterday if he was concerned that people are letting their guards down a bit, and he said yes. He said that he is concerned about that, with especially with the younger people in our communities. And Dr. Caldoun at yesterday's press conference even said the most recent upticks in COVID-19 cases, the new common age bracket is ages 20 to 29. We've seen outbreaks that have been contact traced to local restaurants and bars in Oakland County. Of course, at Fifth Avenue is one of the examples, and then also most notably in the state level at Harper's in East Lansing, Michigan as well. Any concerns about residents gathering in confined spaces and closed spaces like restaurants and bars and other public areas, given that we have a holiday weekend coming up, and what that could mean for the COVID-19 response in the county going forward?
Yeah, so to quote my friend Dr. Faust, yes, I am concerned. We are in a period now. We're in phase 4 of the governor's 6 phases. We're trying to get to phase 5, and I think we're getting close. Our overall positivity rate warrants us beginning to move forward, but it has to be a cautious and careful reopening. And if we don't do this carefully, if we stop doing the things that we've been doing since early March, and by the way, that we've been doing so well, we've done a great job in Oakland County. We've taken this seriously. I don't mean us, I mean our residents, our businesses. They've taken this seriously. And as a result, we brought our numbers down. But there are now examples of folks who feel like, all right, the businesses are reopening. I can get back to my life as I used to know it. And we're just simply not there yet. That's what I said earlier, that we have not defeated this very deadly virus. And so we can't allow packed groups of people without social distancing, without masks on. This will cause, hot spots in our county to pop up as these kinds of events are allowed to happen. And so phase 5 does not look like the end. It looks like phase 5, and that still means no large crowds without social distancing. And we're still in that phase. And I just want people to be very careful. And as you pointed out, a lot of it is younger people. Most people who have died of COVID in Oakland County have been older. 97% of the people who have died in Oakland County have been over the age of 50. But here's the thing. I don't want young people to think that just because they're not dying of the disease, that they can't pass it on to their parents and their grandparents and other people that they care about and love. They can certainly be a carrier of this to other people. So even if they're not at the same level of risk for dying of COVID, they are at the same risk of contracting it and potentially passing it on to their loved ones. So that's why they've got to continue, especially, to take this seriously.
Executive Coulter, just a couple more minutes with you. Anything else you'd like to touch on before we let you go today?
I just want to, we're approaching a holiday weekend, right? And I want to just applaud our residents. I can't wait to have a parade where we celebrate how well we have done. This has been difficult. We've lost jobs. We've lost businesses. We've lost loved ones to this virus. And when this is over, we should have a parade just like parades we had when we won the war. But I just want to say with this, especially with this holiday weekend coming up, we haven't won the war yet. It's not over. We still have to be on guard. And especially this weekend where you might have an urge to gather in groups and let down your guard. Please, Oakland County, stay safe. Keep your family and your loved ones safe. We will get through this together, but it's too early to let our guard down. So let's not let this holiday be the thing that causes a spike and cause us to go backwards in Oakland County. And by the way, have a great holiday weekend, everyone. Celebrate our country, celebrate our freedoms, but do it safely.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Oakland County Executive David Coulter.
My pleasure. Thanks.
We always welcome you to be on the show with us. Always a good interview with Executive Coulter. And you know what? It's going to make the best of episode as well. So we'll have David Coulter on throughout the rest of this week as he was hoping. It ended up being a good interview as expected. So we'll have plenty more coming up on the Oakland County Megacast when we come back. It is her first day on the job as the new executive director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. Dr. Tina Kerr will join us after the break. We'll talk about the new Michigan Safe Schools Return to Learn plan that was announced yesterday at the governor's press conference. That and more coming up. You are watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV, radio, and other media outlets.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Today I signed an executive order requiring every school district to develop and adopt a plan based on various public health scenarios. As I shared a couple weeks ago, if we are in phase 4 or 5, in-person instruction can resume. And today I released the My Safe Schools Return to School Roadmap, a comprehensive document to help districts create local plans for in-person learning in the fall. The roadmap outlines a number of safety protocols for schools to implement in each phase of the My Safe Start plan. The safety protocols detailed in the My Safe Schools roadmap includes guidance on the use of PPE, good hygiene, cleaning and disinfecting, spacing in classrooms, screening for symptoms, athletics, and more.
While today's minimum steps provide a roadmap back to in-person learning, things are not, quote, returning to normal. It will not be perfect. There will be curves in the road ahead. But we owe our students and the educators who serve them the greatest measure of clarity and consistency we can manage in an unprecedented situation.
That from Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Paula Hebart, the president of the Michigan Education Association, from yesterday at Governor Whitmer's press conference, which we had live for you here on Lakes FM and on WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. Yesterday, Governor Whitmer at her press conference unveiling the results of the Michigan Return to Learn Council's proposed plans, and she put together her safe return to learn policy as well, the My Safe Schools Return to Learn plan. Yesterday at Governor Whitmer's press conference was revealed. Joining us now on the Oakland County Megacast to talk about that and further plans going forward for our schools all throughout the state is Dr. Tina Kerr. She is the new Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators, joining us on the Oakland County Megacast. Dr. Kerr, thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate having you on and welcome you. It's your first day on the job. How are things going so far?
Going great my first 3 hours.
Very nice. What a day to start, too. Governor Whitmer yesterday releases her My Safe Schools Return to Learn plan. It's a 63-page document. Have you and your organization been able to take a look over at some of those plans so far, and what maybe are the early conversations that your organization is having with some schools across the state as they're tailoring that roadmap, as the governor referred to it as, to their local school districts?
Well, obviously, we haven't had a chance to completely dissect all 63 pages, but I think that our association did put out some kind of highlights for our members to talk about, especially phase 4 and phase 5 of how we operate. Certainly, all the districts now know that they're working on basically 3 plans: the complete online learning model, depending on the phase they're in, then moving into some online, some in classroom, in person, and then being in phase 4 and 5, being able to be in the classrooms, but having to follow the specific safety precautions. So we really are trying to make sure that our members have a good idea of what's entailed in that document, but also working together to ensure that we can bring our kids back to school safely.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how feasible, in your opinion, are these plans, and was there something that wasn't in them that you would like to see?
We were just excited to have some concrete direction now. I feel like we're in a position that we can whether we see that there may be things that aren't there, certainly that's going to be a possibility once we have an opportunity. And the governor's office has been honest about that. If you see an area that we need to address, then certainly let's do that. The other piece is what this means for us from a policy and legislative basis too, because we do have requirements that our members and districts have to follow. And some of the things may have to change based on when we get our plans in place. So that certainly there's more to come on that, but we are thrilled with having some concrete direction. And this task force really put a lot of time and energy to trying to set us up for success moving forward.
We're joined now by Dr. Tina Kerr, the Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Governor Whitmer also announced Executive Order 2020-142 yesterday that requires each school district to adopt a COVID-19 plan that lays out how it will protect students and educators across the various phases of the Michigan Safe Start plan. That's also part of this, what this roadmap also provides a guide to these school districts. But to help with that, that means PPE, that means in some cases putting further measures in place at the physical brick and mortar schools in order to promote social distancing and to promote extra cleanliness. The governor also announced as part of the budget agreement with the Republican lawmakers in the legislature that the state is allotting $256 million to support districts in implementing their local plans as part of this plan from this upcoming budget year. How critical are those funds going to be, especially to school districts in less fortunate areas, for them to be able to put these plans in place? And will that maybe help them on the technological angle as well as in terms of PPE and safety measures?
Well, those funds were absolutely critical. We know that it's going to cost districts approximately $400 per student to implement these safety precautions. So certainly those funds are going to go a long way to ensuring that districts can remain held harmless during this transition period. It also allowed us, the fiscal year for our districts ended yesterday. So now, instead of making tremendous cuts that we had anticipated, this has allowed us to be in a better budget position. However, moving forward, we are going to have to continue to get some federal support so that districts can continue to be held harmless, because the PPE, whether we are starting school, those are still going to be ongoing expenses as we move into the 2021 school year.
Dr. Tina Kerr with us from the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators on the Oakland County Megacast. The roadmap also recognizes the impact that these changes that we've already experienced during the pandemic and that we're going to continue to experience as we go forward and into the fall on students' mental health as well, and that mental health, of course, of the staff and faculty of these schools as well. How critical, what is your organization talking with to local superintendents and to these individual school districts about in terms of emphasizing mental health treatment and conversations with your students and your teachers so that these transitions can be A, as smooth as possible, but B, for the health and safety of your students as well?
So there are several statewide stakeholder groups. I happen to be on a couple of those, the 31N, which was funding that came into place so that we could add additional supports prior to COVID to support student mental health and well-being. These work groups continue to work during this time, knowing that the first line of defense for kids that need help is their teacher. And when we had to move to the online model, number of referrals, of course, went down. However, we did see a spike in abuse cases and other issues with children at home. So going forward, we have to continue to do and work hard to ensure that our students, number one, are safe in the school environment, but number two, if we are in an online model, they're still going to need support at home. And I do believe that there's a lot of groups that have really focused on this area and will continue to move forward in this pandemic or whatever it looks like when we return in the fall.
We're definitely in some very interesting times right now, and definitely on the education front. I have family that are educators, and they've told me some stories about this sudden change. We've talked to a lot of school administrators, superintendents, teachers, even students about these changes. These are drastic, and we're continuing to learn through this process how to educate kids in school and virtual, kind of hybrid, all virtual, and learning in schools is definitely going to be changed from this as well. How do you see going into the future when we're past this pandemic that the education of our children in the state of Michigan is going to be forever different as a result of the pandemic?
So with every challenge comes an opportunity, and I do believe this is our opportunity in education to change how we deliver instruction to students, but also how we perform across the state moving forward. We found through the pandemic, we already knew there was an equity gaps that existed across the state. However, the pandemic brought that to a whole new level. We are going to have to be more proactive and serious about closing the equity gaps that exist across the state. At MASA, that is a priority focus for us moving forward. This is not going to be a one-year goal of how do we change this. It's going to be an ongoing goal over the next 3 to 5 years, because the pandemic has taught us a lot, that we had several weaknesses that needed to be addressed, equity being one of the largest of those. So moving forward, I think this is a great opportunity for us. Our superintendents, our principals, our teachers, they all need to be commended. This kind of came and we weren't ready, but now knowing and having lived through it for the past 4 months, school districts have really worked hard this summer to try and change the conversation moving forward. And so I'm excited to see what the fall will bring, because I know people are going to be more prepared and our students are going to prosper because of that preparation.
One of the issues prior to COVID was classroom size. So you speaking of opportunity coming out of this, do you think we are going to see smaller classrooms and long term, and will that be a benefit from here on out?
That's hard to say. Districts have typically, yes, we want to keep smaller class sizes, but we can't lose sight of the fact that we are going to be having tremendous financial challenges next year. Certainly, we know we have to keep the students safe, so the class size we would have to definitely look at that. However, there is concern with the type of potential cuts that districts are facing. They're going to need some help in order to maintain an appropriate learning environment while also maintaining the safety precautions that they need to have in the district.
Dr. Tina Kerr with us, the new Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Dr. Kerr, just a couple more minutes with you before we let you go. Any other topics we haven't touched on today that you feel are important to discuss, or anything else that you'd like to say?
As I said before, I really am very committed, and we're very focused at MASA to make sure our districts and our superintendents have all the support they need. Again, I cannot thank them enough for all their hard work that's been going on. We all know, and we're all working together to ensure all 1.5 million children are having a quality education, and we've learned so much through this pandemic, and I look forward to seeing what the future brings, and certainly look forward to being part of the solution.
Dr. Kerr, we thank you very much for being with us today on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Tina Kerr from the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators with us on the Oakland County Megacast, taking some time for us on her first day on the job and really coming into it with a challenging time, but an interesting time that allows, as she said, for some serious changes to come with a result of the challenges that we have experienced. We have Erica Jones out in the field. We'll get to her next, and then we'll talk with David Dulio from Oakland University, Brenda Carter from Michigan's 29th District, one of our state representatives, and we'll cap off today's show talking to Mike Palmer, the owner of Premier Pet Supply, our Facebook partner on the program today. You are listening to the Megacast on 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keagle Harbor, Sylvan Lake, WAHS 89.5, 89.5 WAHS Auburn Hills, that's Avondale Community Radio, and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. The Megacast returns after this short break.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/contain-COVID. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the Lakes FM studios at the offices of Civic Center TV in West Bloomfield Township. Also joined by 88.1 WBFH, The Biff, WAHS, 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, and Birmingham Area Municipal Access on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. In Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the Village of Franklin. That makes up our Megacast family of TV and radio stations. Today, also, we are on the Facebook page of Premier Pet Supply, and thank them for joining us. We'll have Mike Palmer on to cap off today's show at 11:45. But we've been talking a lot, Ronnie and I have lately, about the uptick in COVID-19 cases that are being contact traced back to restaurants and bars throughout the state of Michigan. In a couple of places in Oakland County, it's been at 5th Avenue in Royal Oak, and then in Ingham County, of course, the Harpers in East Lansing, where those cases are now well over 100 cases. We have not heard of any hospitalizations just yet. A lot of those cases are in that new hot age bracket for COVID-19 cases, 20 to 29 years old. Younger people really letting their guards down and are causing these issues that could potentially have serious consequences for local businesses, locally owned businesses especially, all throughout the state.
Well, these businesses just reopened. They're trying to get their footing. You have to remember you're having supply issues, staffing issues, and you still can only have 50% of your capacity. So the thought of possibly having the governor roll back and close these businesses again, it has to be extremely concerning.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it has to be. Yeah, I would agree with that. It's got to be of great concern to these businesses. They were so excited when they reopened because we still have a chance. We can still salvage this, and maybe we'll have some momentum. And they definitely had momentum reopening. And we'll go now to Erica Jones out in the field. She is at one of our local restaurants in the Oakland County area, a locally owned restaurant also, to get that full scoop and see, are they concerned about these recent case upticks potentially shutting down their businesses? Erica, what's going on?
Hi, Tyler. So I'm here at the Grill in Sylvan Lake, where we actually had the opportunity to host our show here and celebrate with them on June 8th when they first were able to reopen, and that exciting time. So now it's July 1st, almost a month later, and like you said, there has been upticks. So I'm here with Vicki, the owner, to talk with us a little bit about some of the concerns with what's going on and, how she thinks this could affect her business. So, hi, Vicki. Thank you so much for talking with us today. So how has it been, how have you guys been for the past month, and what are your concerns moving forward as you see, what's happening in other states and even Michigan now with cases starting to, have spikes?
Absolutely. People are nervous, and I can understand why they're nervous. I would be nervous too. I went out one day and I was. But we're safe. We're safe here. We keep it at under 50% capacity. We make sure people are wearing masks when they come in, and we keep people 6 feet apart. It's not that big of an issue, but I understand that the bars are not. And I heard someone say a couple minutes ago, Larry, say that it was bars and restaurants. And I don't believe it's restaurants. I believe it's bars that cater to young people. Young people, they want to have fun. They're tired of being tied down, and they're out there. And it's absolutely insane. And I hope our governor does cherry pick this situation and close these bars. As a restaurant owner, I hear the rumors of the different bars around here that are allowing anyone to come in without masks, without social distancing. And it's going to hurt it for everyone. It's going to hurt not only business, but we're going to get sick, and we don't need to do that.
So as a restaurant owner, are you concerned that if this continues at, other businesses, that you'll have to be shut down again?
I believe our governor is smarter than that. I believe she really will cherry pick this, just like she's closed the gyms. She'll close the bars. She'll close the bars like they did in Colorado, like they did in Pennsylvania, like they did in Florida. They left the restaurants open because the restaurants are compliant.
And are your customers specifically being compliant, or have you had any problems with people coming in not wearing masks before they sit down at their tables?
My customers have been very compliant. If they do walk in the door, they quickly put their mask on, and we're fine. There just hasn't been an issue here.
Right, that's great. And I know you and I were talking, and you were saying how you do have a lot of customers that are still nervous to come in, and everyone has different comfort levels. So are you still doing a lot of curbside business? How would you say it compares to your dine-in?
I would say curbside is still a third to half of our business every day. Because there are people that are still afraid enough that I put the food in their trunks. I mean, that was like the April level of being afraid, but people are still there. And all these upticks in other states where I think our numbers are worse now than they were in April as a country, I don't blame them.
Yeah. So do you plan to continue curbside indefinitely?
Indefinitely. I think that'll be a big part of our business for a year or more, at least until there's a vaccine out there and they know the vaccine works and people are healthy.
Yes. And, is there anything else you want to say? Any more concerns moving forward, or just message you want to get out there?
I would just encourage everyone, and especially business owners or restaurant and bar owners, just be compliant. Be compliant, we'll all stay safe and we'll all stay open. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you talking with us, and we hope that everything remains good around here. We want you to be able to stay open for
all right. Well, thank you.
Not have to close again. So, all right, Tyler, back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Erica. And I'm not surprised to see that there is that concern from the restaurant angle, because restaurants and bars in this have been clumped together. They didn't reopen restaurants and then reopen the bars. They reopened them together in one fell swoop. So the concern, and Erica, I did appreciate that Erica asked about asked Vicky Kerr from the grill in Sylvan Lake if she was concerned that these upticks coming from bars specifically was going to close both bars and restaurants down again, because with them being clumped together previously before they were reopened together, there's a chance that could be something that is clumped together again down the line if concerns continue to amount.
One thing I was excited to hear her say is they are going to continue their curbside service. Mm-hmm. So every business, every person has had to be creative during COVID-19. And so they started their curbside service. For us that live in the area, the grill is a staple. And having that curbside service is really, really nice. I can tell you, I've only done curbside service at the grill since it's, reopened. So it's nice to see that they are going to continue that from here until the unforeseeable future. And I think a lot of businesses will do that as well.
I think so too. And I did also like that she touched on thinking that the governor may, in this case, if bars continue to be a problem, say, okay, just the bars are going to be closed down. Kind of similar to how it's just the indoor fitness facilities that are that are shut down amongst the gyms, and that they may not clump those two together in that case. I think that would be, if there is continuing to be a problem at these bars specifically, that is a way to say, okay, well, we can't guarantee right now that bars are going to be safe, but the restaurants have been doing really well, and at least salvage some of those businesses potentially by letting the businesses that have by and large been compliant and have been safe to remain open without punishing them for bad behavior being displayed in other places.
Right. One thing with the bars, though, I hope that they don't do all of the bars at once, because I have been into some smaller bars and they have been following the rules. Their people are wearing masks, people are staying 6 feet apart, and it's not overcrowded. So the situation that we've seen at Harper's and we've seen in Royal Oak, they were packed. They were packed in there like sardines, like pre-COVID. So we want to make sure that it's not all businesses. So those businesses should be cited. And it should be, maybe they need to put a mandate and more teeth into the citations to say, we're going to close you down, and do it for that one specific business and not all of them as one big group.
And like we talked yesterday with Lynn Sufton from the MDHHS, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, she had said that the best way to go about reporting that is to go to your local law enforcement first. And we also know that Oakland County has put a huge emphasis on the health angle of this too. I'm sure that going to the Oakland County Health Department and reporting any violations that you may see would also be another avenue that you could take to put this on their attention so they can address this with these businesses. And hopefully, in the case of these bars, they either wake up to, okay, this is serious, we could lose our business by doing this and be shut down again, individually potentially, or just all together, and either wake up to the situation and be more compliant and be safer in their operations, or face some severe consequences. So moving right along now, we have just about another 45 minutes remaining in today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast. COVID-19, social justice issues, and many other stressors on our political landscape have caused maybe a little bit more polarization in our political landscape as we're heading into a very important election season. And joining us to talk about that from Oakland University is one of their professors of political science, David Dulio, with us once again on the Oakland County Megacast. Professor Dulio, thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So how are you? How have you been?
Dandy, just trying to get by with all the restrictions and sort of new normal, hopefully temporary normal, but doing just fine. Thanks for asking.
Always good to hear. So we're in the primary season now. We're coming up on the state primaries, and it's only a small jump in time from the primary elections to the big general election in November. With COVID-19 still looming over us, protests of police brutality and for equality of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, among other issues, has this created an even greater hotbed in the state of Michigan and on the national level for polarization of our politics?
Well, I think certainly the foundation of polarization was there pre-COVID, pre-Trump administration. I think that the president is blamed very often for creating this polarized environment, and that's just not the case. We've seen polarization on the uptick for years and years. I might even put it all the way back, really at a sort of a key point in time would have been the mid-90s when you had Republicans in control of Congress, Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich going up against President Clinton. That seemed to really start some polarization. And if we look at just one example, President Trump's approval ratings among Democrats and versus Republicans are often cited as evidence that he's polarized the country. And without question, Republicans are much greater in terms of their approval of the president than Democrats are. But the same was true for President Obama and President George W. Bush, his predecessors, right? So that polarization was always there. COVID-19, protests, the things that are happening now are really just a new manifestation of that.
David Dulio with us from Oakland University. He's one of their political science professors there. So what does this mean in the context of our primaries, where it's all straight party voting in Michigan? How does this polarization going to affect that? I mean, people are going to vote for their party, but are some people maybe going to look at the opposing party? If they're a Republican, maybe look at the Democratic Party. If they're a Democrat, maybe look at the Republican Party and say, well, they have these 2, 3, 4 candidates on this particular position and for these particular positions, and maybe I would be better off with one of them in the case that my candidate loses. Do you think that this polarization is going to cause people to jump political parties for strategic reasons, maybe in these straight party voting primaries in the state of Michigan?
Sure. You know, I think that there's always a question about that when we're talking about a primary where not in Michigan, but in other states, it's reserved only for those partisans, those who identify with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. They're making those choices for their party, right? But in Michigan, we have this open primary system where anybody can participate in either of the primaries. And we often hear about it during a presidential primary, like the one we had in the spring, where there were questions, are Republicans going to go over and vote in the Democratic presidential primary? In 2016, the question was, are these Democrats going to go and vote in the Republican presidential primary? And does some of that happen? Sure, right? Of course. We see some Democrats go vote in the Republican primary and vice versa to try and fiddle with the, not necessarily the outcome, but give certain candidates more votes than others. Does it impact the outcome? I highly doubt it. The changes we see there, or the impact we see there, are marginal at best. And I think in a polarized time, I think, looking forward to the August primary, we're going to have, I think, more partisans stay home rather than cross over.
How important will the independent voter be in this upcoming election?
Sorry, Ronnie, in the primary or the general?
Either one or both.
Well, in the primary, not very. The primary electorate really is from the fringes of the political spectrum. The primary voters on the Democratic side are those folks that are hardcore Democrats, that they are strong partisans, and the same thing on the Republican side. And we know this because, we have exit poll data from time to time, but, the turnout numbers also tell us that a lot of independents, a lot of those sort of middle of the road voters who might come and go from politics don't participate certainly as much as those who are on the edges of the spectrum. Now, in the general, they play a much bigger role because they enter politics, they enter the electorate for the general election where they may not have done so during the primary. And all of a sudden, you've got a much bigger pool of voters that candidates are going after. And depending on what race they're running, depending on what office they're seeking, depending on what district they might be running in, they have to have different strategies for winning. And sometimes in some areas, a base-only strategy works just fine, where if you can get all the voters from your party, you can win. But in other areas, you need to get your base and attract some of those independent or more moderate voters who are just coming into the electorate, having sat out the primary. So it really depends on where you're running, what you're running for, and the context of that campaign.
How important is the state of Michigan going to be for the general election?
For president, it's critical, right? Michigan is going to be at the top of the list in terms of states that are coveted by the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign. It's been that way since, well, frankly, November of 2016. We're looking ahead to 2020. Everybody's had Michigan on their list, and it's because President Trump flipped Michigan in 2016 after the state had voted several election cycles in a row for Democratic candidates. So the president sees it as absolutely critical to his reelection chances, and Democrats see it as a prime opportunity to flip it back to be part of the so-called blue wall that was being built for Hillary Clinton that frankly fell apart in 2016. But Democrats are going to try to rebuild that and make it. And without Michigan, the president's path to reelection becomes a lot more difficult. And you can see this already happening. If you've watched television, like many of us have been sort of forced to with lockdowns and closures and all that sort of thing, you're already seeing advertisements from the Biden campaign, from the president's campaign, from outside interest groups that are looking to impact that race. And June, July is really early, relatively speaking, for campaigns at a presidential level to start engaging in a state. So it just tells you just how important and how much focus is going to be on our state.
David Dulio joining us. He's a political science professor at Oakland University. So we talked about how the polarization could impact the primaries, could impact the general elections as well. And just to go back on that, in the context of pre-pandemic, current pandemic, and post-pandemic, we were polarized before. It's maybe increased with the frustrations that we've seen amount during the pandemic. Are we at a point now in terms of the polarization of our political landscape where we've dug too far of a hole and there's no way out? Or is there still some hope there that there is a way out of this polarized landscape to something that's more neutral or conversational?
I sure hope so. And I think that, I wouldn't write it off just yet, because frankly, if that's the case, we're in real trouble. If we get to a point where there's no hope of people being able to calmly come together and have a discussion about differences of opinion and being able to rationally and calmly discuss different policy options that are in front of them, and I don't know where we go from there. And that's one of the things that is really what we focus on at Oakland University in our Center for Civic Engagement. We bill ourselves as a convener of conversations about issues of public importance, where we want to be the place where folks can come together and have discussions, have conversations about important issues, but to do it in the quote unquote right way, right? Where there's civil, respectful, and deliberative dialogues.
In terms of wearing masks, even safety precautions have become a bit of a political issue with both parties. You wear the mask, you're either saving on one side you wear the mask, you're saving the world, or you're destroying freedom. On the other side, if you don't wear the mask, you're killing all of us, or you're taking a stand for your rights. Why have even these public health issues been so politicized lately? And are we at a point now where even issues that are not necessarily politically centered are having the polarization bleed into those discussions as well?
Right. And I think that, your phrase there about politically centered, I think is key, because in the past, these kinds of things may not have been politically focused. But given the fact that there are some polarizing individuals that are part of these that are part of these part of the context, right, around COVID-19, around decisions being made around COVID-19, whether that's President Trump or Governor Whitmer or politicians and elected officials in other areas, they get dragged. These questions of public health get dragged into the political sphere, and I think that face coverings are just another manifestation of how polarization is impacting us. And frankly, we really shouldn't be surprised that this is the case. And I say that for one reason. In a polarized time, and we can hear certain descriptions of it as, politics is tribal these days, or people think of it in terms of their team versus the other team. Face masks might just be the New Jersey that, not New Jersey, the state, the New Jersey of politics, right? Where if you're on one team, you're wearing a mask. If you're on another team, you're not wearing a mask, right? And it's a way to show your allegiance. It's a way to show your team pride. And I think that it's just, again, another manifestation of how that's going to play out.
David Dulio with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Just another minute or so with you. Anything else you'd like to touch on or that we haven't talked about just yet that would be important to discuss before we let you go?
Well, I think that your listeners and viewers need to get ready for a wild ride in terms of elections in the next several months. We've got from July 4th to Election Day, may not seem like a long time, but it is in politics. It's a lifetime in politics in many regards. And a lot can happen. And I think a lot will happen. There is so much uncertainty out there with regard to COVID-19, with regard to the economic impact and that we're going to see from COVID-19, whether or not we have to go through another series of closures or a lockdown and how long that might last. All of that will impact not just the presidential race, but campaigns up and down the ballot that we're going to have to see and really keep an eye on how the public health context and the political context around that is going to impact those races.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Professor.
Hey, my pleasure.
Thank you very much for being with us. David Giulio, Professor of Political Science at Oakland University, with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll take a short break, and we'll come back and speak with Representative Brenda Carter. Her office is running some new programs to help unemployed individuals in our local area get in contact with the UIA or move the needle forward at least on their issues. And she's also supporting other local programs in the Oakland County area that we'll touch on with her as well. You are watching and listening to the Oakland County Megacast on our family of TV, radio, and other media outlets.
Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan. So people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Hello, I'm Dr. Betty Chu, Chief Quality Officer at Henry Ford Health System, and I'm with Wright Lassiter, Henry Ford Health System's CEO, to talk about coronavirus.
In uncertain times, it's natural to have questions. So I'm going to ask Dr. Chu to answer some of the common ones. First, why can't I visit my grandma to see if she's okay?
Because the elderly are at a higher risk for complications with this disease, and you could inadvertently infect her.
If I'm healthy, why can't I go out with my friends?
The larger the crowd you're exposed to, the higher the chance you could get infected and infect others.
If I have symptoms, why do I have to seek care?
While the disease isn't dangerous for most people, for others it can be. We need to understand how serious your case is, because the right choices save lives. For more information, visit henryford.com or call 313-874-1055.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast alongside Ronnie Dahl. I'm Tyler Kieft in our Lakes FM studios in West Bloomfield Township, on Civic Center TV, and on Birmingham Area Municipal Access, also in Birmingham, Bingham Farms, Beverly Hills, and the Village of Franklin. We're also on 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 The Biff out of Bloomfield Hills, and out of WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, a service of Avondale High School. And we thank Keith Fraley, their engineer, and the station manager, Marty Schaefer, for keeping us on the air each and every day on our Megacast family of stations. We also have Mike Palmer connected to our Zoom meeting. We'll get to him in just a few minutes and talk with him later on. Premier Pet Supply, our Facebook partner today, broadcasting live on their Facebook page all throughout the program. And speaking of programs, man, there are a lot of helpful programs that are being put in place on the county level and are being supported also at the state level by our local representatives. And here to talk about some of those with us is Representative Brenda Carter from Michigan's 29th District on the Oakland County Megacast. Representative Carter, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Tyler. I'm glad to be here.
So how are you? How's your team doing?
My team is phenomenal. I could not have a more efficient team. We've been together ever since I've been in office. They know me, I know them, and they are working hard for this district.
And we do see a lot of partnership between your office, between other representatives in our local area and their office, with both Oakland County, with our local school districts and other organizations as well. And part of that partnership, a couple weeks back, we joined your team for your K-12 education experience town hall with a few different superintendents from school districts in our local area. We had Dr. Hill from West Bloomfield, Dr. Schwartz from Avondale Schools, and then we had Kelly Williams, the superintendent of the Pontiac School District as well. That was leading up to the results of this Michigan Safe Michigan Safe Schools Return to Learn plan. Partnership has been critical with our educators in the local area and between their state representative as well. Since that event went on, what has the conversation been continued to be between school districts in your office and other state legislatures on these issues?
Well, we're very fortunate in District 29 to have 3 great superintendents. And I found that they have been collaborating on school openings all along while the governor's team has been putting a plan in place. What results of that telecast, and thank you very much, Civic Center TV, for broadcasting that for us, is that the community knows where to go to, who's involved in the questions they may have. They've asked us to do another education town hall right before school opens. So we're looking tentatively at August 17th, putting it together and bringing in our public education superintendents and also inviting in a couple of the charter school superintendents. So it's been very beneficial for my district as a whole. It covered everything from Orchard Lake Village to Auburn Hills. So it's been a great experience for my district.
Representative Brenda Carter with us from Michigan's 29th District on the Oakland County Megacast. Representative Carter, you and your staff have been helping with unemployment issues, among other issues in the local area. You recently started holding workshops for those residents that are seeking unemployment and are trying to get in contact with the Unemployment Insurance Agency. What goes on at those workshops? When are they, and how can people get involved?
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. Thank you for asking that question. It has been a labor of love because we realized that the UIA system was totally overwhelmed with the pandemic. 1/4 of our workforce seeking unemployment assistance. Not only my district, but all of the legislators on both sides of the aisle in both houses have been reaching out and helping our constituents. In my district, particularly on Wednesdays and Fridays from noon to 4 o'clock, we do have in-district assistance at one of the local nonprofits in Pontiac, where anybody in our district can come up to this office and get assistance. What they will do is we have been trained, my staff and I, including me, we have all been trained on what to do with the basics of helping people get their claims resolved. As of today, I've learned that we're somewhere a little north of 700 claims that we have assisted virtually in every community that I have. And right now, my communities are Auburn Hills, Keiko Harbor, Sylvan Lake, Orchard Lake Village, and Pontiac. So people can now come to 331 West Walton Boulevard on Wednesdays and Fridays from 12 to 4, and they can get immediate assistance with their claims as far as getting them inputted into the UIA system.
If I can ask you one question as an elected leader, we hear so often about the gap in education, the kids that don't have access to the internet. How has this been for you as an elected leader, though, to reach out to senior citizens? I feel like that's a part of our community that we're not really talking about. They don't have the educational or the internet tools or the savviness sometimes, not all. Some grandpas out there are much better at Facebook than I am, but there is that technological gap with your senior citizens. So how have you been able to try to reach out to them during this time?
In all honesty, what we have been focusing on in my district is making sure that our seniors are safe. We're totally engaged with the Bowen Center and the Ruth Peterson Center and making sure that our seniors have nutritious meals, the medical attention they need, the testing they need, COVID-19, the information that they need about COVID-19. Now, technology has not been on the forefront of most of our seniors. If we were to do I'm speaking of one particular community, but if we were to do a survey and say, what is your highest priorities right now in time, we would find out that most most seniors are definitely afraid because when COVID-19 started, they said if you're over a certain age, you're going to be affected by COVID-19. However, bringing up the point that we do need to provide technology resources for our seniors. This is something that my district will look into. I know that we have at the Bowen Center and the Ruth Peterson Center in Pontiac, we do have computers set up, and we do have access to the internet for our seniors who want to learn more about the internet. But for our seniors who are sick and shut in, those are the ones we really need to look at and say, maybe this is an opportunity for us to say, is this something that you could benefit from? So it's definitely something that I will look into.
Representative Brenda Carter from Michigan's 29th District with us on the Oakland County Megacast. Representative Carter, you've also been involved with a food distribution program at the office of the Phoenix Community Fund in Pontiac. Go into details about what's going on at that, when is it happening, and where can folks go to if they need that assistance?
Yes, thank you for asking that question as well. We partner a lot with nonprofits, quite a few nonprofits that we support, and they support the initiatives that we are doing. For Helping Others Enhance, For Hope, is the actual sponsor of our food drive that we have on Wednesdays and Fridays. Once again, in fact, it's going on right now. We're proud to say several potential elected officials or elected officials like U.S. Congresswoman Haley Stevens will come by, and they will help us serve nutritious frozen meals to the community free of charge, no questions asked. Just drive up to the building and you will be properly served. This also goes on Wednesdays and Fridays, but from noon until 2 p.m. Once again, this is one of the community initiatives that we are involved with throughout the whole entire district where we service our community.
Yesterday at a press conference, Governor Whitmer introduced some potential police reforms that she's proposing for the state of Michigan. Among those policies that would be involved in those reforms are bans on chokeholds and windpipe blockage, further limits on no-knock warrants, duty to intervene policies, and making false racially motivated 911 calls a hate crime, as well as further on-the-job training requirements for officers in order to maintain their license. Your thoughts on these proposed reforms, and is there anything in terms of police reform being worked on by the state legislature at this time?
I really appreciate this question because the House of Representatives recently brought up a House Concurrent Resolution 277, which gave us an either-or solution to something that needs a deeper dive. I am very appreciative of Representative Ronnie Peterson and Representative Brian Elder, because they came out with House Bill 5837. And what this bill does is it addresses the needs of additional training and additional support for our police, not only for our police, but for our community. We have found shining examples of community police collaboration. You have a great one up there in Flint with Chris Swanson, who walked with the protesters, or right down here in Oakland County, you have Sheriff Bouchard, who has a ongoing SRT program where he brings in community stakeholders to talk about some of the things that's going on with the police. The governor's EO on making sure that we identify these serious cases where you have chokeholds, where you have obvious police brutality. These things are addressed quickly. So I agree with that as well. But I'm more focused on making sure that we have enough resources, not only with our police, but with our community. A lot of the people who are in trouble with the system are people that could have had a different avenue if they had socioeconomic conditions addressed, or if they had mental health issues, maybe that could have been addressed by the professionals who are properly trained in dealing with this type of incident. So with the governor's EO that she put out, I agree with it, but I more so agree with what the House of Representatives did with 5837, where they said they need to address the shortcomings or the shortages with our police and in our community, and dealing with and that type of reform, more so than just a cold blackout. Either you're on this side or you're this side, and neither one of them solves. And what we need to do is take a deeper look into what's happening. And I'm grateful for what happened. Okay.
Representative Brenda Carter with us from Michigan's 29th District, one of our state representatives. Here on the Oakland County Megacast, Representative Carter, on Tuesday night, there was an event in West Bloomfield that was organized by a first-year student at the University of Michigan, a West Bloomfield High School graduate, Drive-In for Justice, which was a program centered around raising awareness for equal rights for Black people, for Indigenous people, for people of color in our community. And it was organized almost entirely by young people in our community, either current high school students or recent graduates. Talk to us a little bit about the leadership that's been shown during these social justice movements we've seen of the past month or so in our local area. Talk about the leadership of our young people and making these movements move forward.
I think it's incredible, okay? I can remember back in the day when I was a young person in the last century, where...
Representative Carter, it appears that your audio was muted. Let's give you a quick moment here to unmute yourself and go ahead and restart your answer there.
That we protested for our Vietnam War, that's giving my age, but to see the young people out there now, and they're diverse, okay? You don't see just one race or one this. They're all together because they realize how important it is for their future to get some of this out of the way. So I'm very encouraged. In Pontiac, we have a group of people, young people, who are moving the movement forward. They just had a great event over there at the 50th District Court. The one we had out at 1200 Bunny Allen, that was a really good one. Once again, motivated by these young people. I believe they're mostly Gen Zs. You might find some millennials, but what's encouraging is that it's Gen Z. So I'm excited about what's going on in West Bloomfield. I know we just had one out in where the young people did in Auburn Hills. So it's all over my district. And what's beautiful about these young people is that they want to protest peacefully. They want change peacefully. They identify and they recognize that we have some issues. We have some issues that if we get out of the way, maybe we could all live in harmony, all races, all people. So I support the young people, and whenever I can be out there for them, I will.
Representative Brenda Carter, anything else you'd like to speak on before we let you go today?
Yes. I just want everybody to be safe this 4th of July. I know we all want to get out to the beaches and the sandbar in Kego, but we got to realize that right now the uptick is going the other way when it comes to COVID-19 cases. And even in Michigan, we've had incidents out in Grand Rapids. We've had incidents in East Lansing, and we just have to be safe. We don't want another shutdown. We don't want another economic downturn. We don't want more deaths due to something that we can prevent if we just put on a mask. Political statement, I don't think politics has anything to do with this right now. We just want to make sure that we secure our planet. And if nothing more, for all those young people who are out there protesting that they want a better life.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today, Representative.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for having me.
Representative Brenda Carter with us on the Oakland County Megacast. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we'll be joined by our last guest today, Mike Palmer, the owner of Premier Pet Supply, also our Facebook partner today on the Oakland County Megacast. Ronnie and I will be back after this quick break.
Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan. So people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
We know that we're asking Americans to do a lot right now. So we're asking everyone to be selfless for others so that we can protect those who are most susceptible to this virus.
A question I often get asked is, why should young people care about the spread of coronavirus? Well, we know that people with underlying medical conditions over the age of 60 are at highest risk, but they've got to get it from somebody.
Social distancing is really physical separation of people.
It's what we refer to when we ask people to stay at least 6 feet apart.
Not going to bars, not going to restaurants, not going to theaters where there are a lot of people. It all just means physical separation so that you have a space between you and others who might actually be infected or infect you.
We all have a role to play in preventing person-to-person spread of this disease, which can be deadly for vulnerable groups. For more information on how you can social distance, please go to coronavirus.gov.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast on a family of TV and radio stations all throughout the local area. On Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, on Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Municipal Access, on the radio 89.3 Lakes FM and lakesfm.com, 88.1 WBFH The Biff under the leadership of station manager Ron Whittables, and WAHS 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. And we're also today joined by Premier Pet Supply on their Facebook page via Facebook Live. And now joining us on the program to cap off today's show is their owner, Mike Palmer, on the Oakland County Megacast. Mike, thank you for being with us again.
Thank you so much for having me. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. How are you? How's your team at Premier Pet Supply been doing?
You know, we're hanging in there. We've definitely had to change the whole landscape of what we do, immediately 4 months ago, and implementing curbside and delivery to both do our part in preventing people from having to socially interact if they felt they didn't want to or felt uncomfortable doing so, but also in order to just to maintain and preserve business. It is always and has been, especially in retail, survival of the fittest, and we're doing everything and anything that we can to just accommodate and make sure that we're able to hang in there.
Well, Mike, I know you have locations in Troy, West Bloomfield, Rochester Hills, a few other places. What location are you at today? Where are we seeing you at today?
I'm at our Beverly Hills store. This is our original. My uncle opened the store back in 1992, so I've been doing this since I was a sophomore in high school in this location here, and it was about 4 years ago, going on 5, that we started to expand in the Metro Detroit area and really do what we could to take what we do here in the Beverly Hills store and have for so many years, and commitment to the customers that we have walking through our store and the community surrounding us, and doing that in the other communities that we're now in. And I'm really proud of what we've been able to put together and how we've been able to grow and expand our exposure in Metro Detroit.
One of the things as a pet owner that I've come to appreciate is the curbside service, because when you have a bigger dog, you have to get those big bags and they are very heavy. Do you think you're going to continue that service when this is over? Hopefully one day it will be over.
Yeah, and we are hopeful and staying positive always. The interesting thing is that it was a plan that we had prior to COVID-19 becoming what it did. We were about a month away from launching curbside and delivery. Of course, I was so excited to be the first to market as an independent pet supply retailer in Metro Detroit to offer curbside and delivery. But then, when everything happened the way it had, everybody and their brother now is doing curbside and delivery. So that's no longer anything that will be unique to just us. It's inevitable that we were going to have to conform in one way or another. We're always trying to figure out ways that we could survive and maintain business. And as things evolve around us with the huge impact that online sales have had, we've got to do what we can to provide that same convenience. I think people ask me all the time, who or what is your biggest competition? And I don't know that it's one entity. It actually, I think our biggest competition right now is just convenience. People have the ability to order things and have them delivered at their front door at a competitive price. And I get that convenience because we're all so busy now. You know, I've got 4 kids at home, and although we support local and buy, I can see why people would be, you know, wanting to have things as easy as possible. And so in retail, we've always put ourselves in position to make things as easy as we can for the customer. You know, we're here for their convenience, and in order to maintain that, we're going to have to continue to offer curbside and delivery, you know, locally in this area. If honestly, if we're going to survive, because the internet has taken quite a bit of the pet industry business and many industries' business, and it's nothing that we can get upset or beat ourselves up over. It is what it is. And so, you know, in order to maintain, we're going to have to conform. You know, we don't want to become the Sears who was online before online with their catalog, but yet didn't conform to what online retailers were doing. And unfortunately, they are no longer. And we don't want that to happen to Premier Pet Supply. So we're going to do everything and anything we can.
We don't either. And I will say one thing the internet can't do is provide the knowledge and the customer service. So I have a new rescue dog, and she's like 60 pounds.
Okay.
We're going into the 4th of July weekend. We're not sure how she's going to react. One thing that your stores offer is that one-on-one conversation. So for new pet owners that are coming in and they're worried about their dogs being anxious during this time with all the fireworks, what do you tell them and what do you recommend?
So it's a big issue, and it is something that many people have to deal with. And I'm not sure if the laws of fireworks have expanded. It seems that people are blasting off fireworks for an entire month, you know, leading up to 4th of July and then afterwards. And it's something that we all will have to deal with. And for your situation and circumstance, many will share because so many people during the pandemic rescued a dog, and thank you for doing that. And also, you know, got new puppies at home. And this will be a first 4th of July for them to experience that. And so many dogs and cats both get really stressed and experience a lot of anxiety during anytime there's any type of loud noises, fireworks in particular, but also thunderstorms this time of year. So we've got many products that we have that can help. And the great thing about them all is they're all natural. And the one thing I could recommend and suggest that, you know, you want to try to be conscientious of at home is not to play into the dog's fear. I think it's a natural instinct for all of us to want to console and pet an animal and make them feel comforted when they're scared. But, you know, dogs especially learn by association. So if they see you reacting that way, you're endorsing that behavior. And, it's a bit of a tough love type of thing. So you want them to figure out ways to learn to cope with it on their own so that it isn't something that continues to be a bigger and bigger problem, because it will cause issues for the dog and cat's health. It'll also cause issues for you guys as well in dealing with the anxiety. So I've got many products, and I brought a couple of them for us to show. One of them is really easy that we've done for a really long time. It's actually in a treat form. It's called Heavenly Hound. It uses valerian, passion flower, chamomile, all natural ingredients that actually help to calm and relax the dog. One of these is good for up to a 20-pound dog. And typically when you're supplementing with anything like this with ingredients similar to that are herbal, that actually provide relaxation and calm, something that you want to give maybe around a half hour before the situation you think may arise, if it's even a car ride that the dog may be anxious about, or a thunderstorm is coming, or it's getting dark and fireworks are going to happen. These are things that you want to give, and typically the effects of this will last for 3 to 4 hours. So something to keep in mind. And there's many options in that. So as far as this is in a treat form. There's also homeopathic drops that you can put directly into the dog's mouth or in the water. This uses the same and similar ingredients that you could, that you would be giving. But what's come about more recently that we've done really well with is actually the CBD supplements. So we talk a lot about CBD being beneficial for people. CBD is something that we're selling a lot of for both dogs and cats. And it's all natural, like any of the other supplements and that I've shown you. It's not something that's going to affect the motor skills. It doesn't have THC in it, so it's not getting your animal high. Basically what it does, it just triggers the receptors in the brain to provide relaxation and calm. And this is what we need in a situation like this. But if these options are, and they do make them for cats as well. This one, Calm Down Kitty, it's got CBD, the hemp CBD in that, along with tryptophan. We some of you may be recognize tryptophan. Tryptophan is an amino acid that is found naturally in meats like turkey. That's why on Thanksgiving Day, we all have this tendency to want to just hit the couch and just relax after eating a plate full of turkey. That's the tryptophan effect, and that's a natural amino acid that's added to a lot of these supplements as well. And it's something that, that it's proven to work. It's been very effective. But if this isn't for you, there are other options. Like a Thunder shirt is one of them. We've sold them for many years for both dogs and cats.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. We unfortunately are out of time today, Mike. We had to get going, but we thank you for being with us. Mike Palmer, the owner of Premier Pet Supply. They're also our Facebook partner today. That is going to do it for the Oakland County Megacast. We'll return with new episodes on Monday and the Best of show beginning tomorrow and going throughout the rest of the week.